we have a context where there is extremely weak digital governance on a global scale, and in some countries there is very limited or no digital governance, and in other regions there is very high digital governance, and that is causing an issue of competitiveness, where you have high governance in one place, in one part of the world, which is focused on protecting its citizens and values, and avoiding risks, and that is limiting innovation, perhaps, right? And you have other parts of the world where that level of regulation is very minimal. It's forcing innovation, but also perhaps at the expense of human well-being and safety, right? So you have to balance this, right? And I think that the balance comes when collectively small and middle powers come together and say, we want something, we want better governance, we have a shared set of perspectives, and then they adopt that. You know, if you think about this notion of car seats and seat belts in cars, okay? When I was growing up in Kenya, we didn't have a seat belt in our car, okay? You drove around, I was a kid in the back, in the front, no big deal. When I moved to London, I couldn't sit in the front, and I had to wear a seat belt even in the back, okay? But that was because the UK and European countries had decided that, hey, we're gonna have seatbelts in our cars, and we're gonna make it the law, and if you don't follow that, whether you like it or not, we're gonna fine you. And one could argue, well, I'm taking on the risk, right? I'm an individual. But they said, no, it's a paternalistic law, but it is a law, right? But that forced every single car to have seatbelts, even the cars in Kenya, okay? So because you're building to a global standard, you're building to a standard that meets one major market, every single one of the products has to have the seatbelt. And that means that the laws change. And when you want to create that law in Kenya, it's not a huge cost to say, we're now going to enforce this law, or we're going to create and enforce this law on seatbelts. In a very similar way on AI, few countries, the middle powers, the small powers, can come together and design and say, these are the seatbelts that we want when AI is used in our countries. And that's going to force the technology to build a safety, because when others want that safety, it'll be easy to turn on. And by the way, it'll become obvious that that's the right thing to do. So that's how I think about it. So I think it comes back to this notion of variable geometry and coalitions, because that will drive how we address this issue of digital governance.